Keeping a campaign promise, President Trump will visit the Department of Homeland Security today to sign executive orders which will enable construction of the border wall. He tweeted from his personal account last night. He said this: "Big day planned on national security tomorrow. Among other things, we will build that wall." I want to bring in Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra right now, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, a former Florida congressman and a Fox News contributor. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Hey, good morning.
Congressman Hoekstra, kick us off here. Your reaction to the move to build a wall?
Well, I mean, this is a president that absolutely is keeping his promises. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and he's doing it very, very quickly. This is going to be fascinating to watch. Something is going to break. Donald Trump is moving, and he's moving quickly. Washington is not used to that. Either Donald Trump is going to have to slow down or Washington is going to have to speed up. And I think Washington is going to have to figure out a way to speed up and stay in touch with Donald Trump.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're all trying to keep up with him. I mean, it's crazy. So, Allen West, Colonel, what's your take on this? I mean, the whole question, of course, Mexico pays for it, the U.S. pays for it. Bottom line is he's getting to work on it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is an issue of not just national security, but also our domestic security. One of the things you have to be concerned about is what General Kelly is well known of for quite some time, being from Southcom, is the transnational criminal organizations, the drug cartels, and the collusion that they're having with Islamic jihadists and terrorist organizations. So we have to be able to secure that southern border. We are a sovereign nation, and I think that's a critical issue. And as well, he's going to be tackling this whole issue of sanctuary cities holding criminal illegal immigrants there, and he's going to look at how he can use that purse string against these cities also.
And one of the things I'm really curious about is, you know, he's delivering on every one of his campaign promises, and everyone's acting surprised that he's doing this. He promised he was going to act day one. He's been acting day one, and yet everybody's going like, what's going on here? He's doing what he said he was going to do. How is D.C. going to catch up, and how is everybody going to deal with this moving forward?
Well, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a D.C. that Donald Trump is going to start tweeting out, why are they going home Thursday night? Why are they not working on Saturday? Why have they not passed tax reform? Why have they not started getting rid of some of these rules and regulations? Why haven't they passed Obamacare reform? He's going to keep the pressure on. And he's going to have the American people with him on all of these issues.
Yep. You know, one of the things that was talked about yesterday, and certainly the speculation is that President Trump will also issue a temporary ban on most refugees and coming into the country, in particular from Syria, a suspension of visas for any refugee of Syria and 6 other Middle Eastern and African countries. Colonel West, what's your take on this? This is being talked about a lot this morning on both, okay, this was a promise, but also, is this the right move? What do you think?
Well, it's a fact of reality. All you have to do is look across the Atlantic Ocean and see what Angela Merkel has done to Germany and how that has spread like a cancer all across Europe. You know, when we look at individuals that are coming from countries that are on the designated terrorist watch list, or countries that have, you know, known Islamic terrorist groups that operate within their borders, we have to be protective of the American people. And we know that ISIS has said that they were going to infiltrate those refugees. I think that when you look at single military-age Muslim males, you have to be concerned. And this is about, once again, our domestic security and our national security. And I think he has the high ground on this issue.
Yeah. I think, Congressman, I'm going to come back to a couple of comments you said. You know, I think in business, if you aren't changing faster than the rate of change externally, you're backing up. And I think, as you said, you know, he's just delivering on all the promises he made that got him elected. So I don't know why people are surprised. But from your experience in Washington, what is it going to take to get the politicians to act more like business people? You know, that's the way he's going to run the government, as a business person. And change is the only constant that we know in business today. You have to be able to pivot. What do they have to do in Washington to get caught up with him, to catch up?
Well, I think it was Lee Iacocca said, if you're not making dust, you're eating dust. And Washington has been eating dust for years, and America has been eating dust around the globe for years. These problems have been around for a long time. Washington now needs to recognize, get out of the politics. Actually get Republicans and Democrats working together and start passing legislation in addressing these, the systemic problems, whether it's immigration, whether it's a threat from terrorism, whether it's health care, actually do something and gets things moving. Donald Trump is creating that opening for Republicans and Democrats to work together, and they are going to have to grab that opportunity, or in 2018, the American public is going to stand with Donald Trump, and they're going to vote the Washington insiders out. And this time, instead of doing it in the White House, they're going to do it in Congress.
Well, there are mechanisms in place to both congressmen to, certainly in terms of the border wall construction, to let it happen. The 2006 Secure Fence Act, pushed by President Bush, that both then Senator Barack Obama and Senator Chuck Schumer voted for. That you could allow, it allows for 700 miles of construction of a physical barrier on our southern border. That's in place, and certainly President Trump, and the Republican Congress can use that to their advantage.
Do you agree with that?
You're absolutely right. Those things are already on the books. You can go all the way back to Ronald Reagan's presidency when he signed that legislation that, you know, led to 2 to 3 million illegals being made citizens. But the key thing was to secure our borders. And so Congressman Hoekstra brings up a great point. Washington, D.C. always tries to slow roll people and just do what they want to do. I call it the self-licking ice cream cone, in that they only want to do what they want to do. But there's a different person in charge in Washington, D.C. and the White House, and they're going to have to play catch up.
Yeah, the only problem is, gentlemen, is that the faster Washington does things sometimes, the more money it spends. Right? Remember the stimulus that the world was going to come to an end if we didn't pass the nearly $1 trillion stimulus plan? Yeah. And again, in terms of the border wall, you have to worry about the cost of it, do you not?
Well, you bring up a great point, because that was something that Barack Obama came right in, was about government spending. But I think that you're going to see a President Trump that is not talking about government spending. He's talking about growing our private sector, getting Americans back to work, and he's talking about $10 trillion of spending cuts over the next 10 years. So I think he has a different perspective.
Yeah, and by the way, under that umbrella, President Trump signed executive orders just yesterday implementing a hiring freeze across the government except for national security, renewing that commitment and that policy that forbids international nonprofits receiving federal money from providing abortion services. The whole idea cutting back in terms of government spending.
I think Washington has to learn how to waste less to be efficiently and buy more.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's 20 to 30% of waste out there across all the various areas, and they could, if they become more efficient, they can be more effective in what they do spend.
Yeah, for sure.
I know one thing we need to talk about, and that's entitlements, because you can talk about cutting at the edges in Washington, and unless you're going to take a hatchet to the entitlement programs, the deficit and the debt will continue to balloon.
Yeah. And by the way, his pick for budget director, Mick Mulvaney, yesterday said that the nearly $20 trillion debt needs to be addressed, quote, sooner rather than later. He says he's going to push Trump to actually break campaign promises and cut those entitlements.
I know.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. We'll see what happens there. Is that going to be a disappointment for his voters, or is that going to be, okay, he's got the courage to actually make the move on something that we all know needs to be done?
Right, exactly.
I will take a short break. We're watching Dow 20,000. Congressman Pete Hoekstra, Colonel Alan West, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, gentlemen.